Again, I've been through all this, hell and back. I've done all this winning, all this checkbox. You see, I'm winning, Dad. I'm winning. You see, I'm winning. Look whose jet I'm on, Dad. Huh? I'm winning. You know, all those years of like that was what defined me. That was my identity, as I'm a winner. And I felt like I had nothing. I just was so empty. And no one even knew the truth because I couldn't really let anybody know.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the #1 mental health and addiction podcast, the Hopeaholics. I am your girl, Natalie Eva Marie, and these are my boys.
I'm Chad.
Hi, I'm Shane.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials and wherever you get your podcasts.
Got a new episode dropping every Monday and Thursday. Please come check it out.
This episode is brought to you by the Infinity Group. You guys, if you or a loved one is suffering, please call us today. The number is right here on the screen. We are here for you 24/7. Now, let's get into the episode.
Eric, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank
Chad.
you. Thank you, Chad.
I meant to say welcome.
Yeah, I know.
Eric, welcome to the Hopeaholics Podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you.
That is a blooper, though. That's going to be in somewhere.
Oh, they won't even take it out of the main. It's
Yeah.
going to be in.
You're right, it is.
It's
I mean, before we
better
even
that
get
way.
started, we have to give a shout out to our girl Sahara.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she's the one that,
Hooking it up.
connected us
Yeah.
with you.
She's amazing.
She really is. She's a powerhouse.
She's
savage.
a great connector.
And she doesn't play.
No, she's the real deal.
You were just talking about winning. She knows a lot about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I was just with a billionaire. I sat with him for 3 hours because of Sahar. Wonderful man. I would have never met him. The opportunities that are starting to present would have never been if it wasn't for her. So, number one, you got to find those people in life. Number two, try to be that person.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Nice.
I think number 3, have the balls to go get it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
You got to be
'Cause
bold.
You got to be able to take that shot.
Right.
And it's like the
That's
worst
true.
that can happen is you're in the same spot that you were prior to taking that shot. So
You might even be a little bit advanced because at least you took the shot. You have something that you didn't have before. Because if you don't ever take the shot,
you'll never know.
you'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be just in the same spot. So that's why it's like,
Take the shot.
Plus, the shot could be good. The gun could be off. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Shot could be good. The job might not be for you.
Right.
That's all.
And
But-
even if the worst does happen, sometimes that's where the greatest gold lies.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind
Yeah.
of just
Yeah.
what you were just talking about,
Yeah.
though. Like before we went live, I'd like you to dive back into that because everything that's happened in my life, all of the success, my whys, all come from a place of darkness. They all come from tragedies. They all come from losing. They come from addiction. But they get celebrated by the birth of my daughter, you know, and that became my why.
Yeah.
You know, my why became I wanted to be a father to that little girl, and I knew at that moment that God had left me on this planet to help other people that suffer with the same thing that I suffer from,
Yeah.
you know, which is this thing in between my ears,
Yeah.
which is the world suffers from that.
Yep.
Everybody suffers from this thing, and the one thing that connects all human beings is pain. We all know what it feels like to hurt.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't know what joy and bliss
Exactly.
and love is without. You have to have both.
Yeah.
I agree. But
Yes.
we need to go back into you. You're here today to talk about you. You're in the hot seat. I want to start from the beginning. Like, where were you born? Do you have brothers, sisters? And kind of take us through.
Sure. Yeah.
that.
So, real quick, just to piggyback off that real quick, you skip through that, but that may be one of the greatest gifts in life to be able to stumble upon what you did is if you can get other people to win, if you can get other people out of their darkness, if you can get like anybody to advance their position in life, that is the greatest fulfillment you can have. And you really don't know that until you have it all. And I think we talked about this real quick, but I think that's where purpose for a lot of people, they figure out how to win first. And that may come out of a dark emotion. And then purpose starts popping up. But I don't know if you can go from darkness to purpose. Maybe you can, but it's hard if you can't pay your bills. It's hard if you're struggling all the time. Like, you first got to start figuring out how all this game works. But it's good. I love that conversation about getting other people to a place where you were out of that.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
for me, I was born to a single mother. She was 19 in 1984, so almost 41. And my real father split on her when she was pregnant with me. He wanted her to have an abortion. And she just didn't grow up that believing in that. And they were married too. He just didn't want a kid. And I think he was like an alcoholic. He had gambling issue, and my mom was pretty young and naive. But so he split, and it was just me and my mom for like the first 7 years. And then my dad entered, the person that would become my dad. They fell in love, and she remarried. He had a son that was my older stepbrother. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the early things, like I love talking about winning first. You know, it's just if I can get someone to win, you can do a lot of damage with a person. And I think back to where winning started for me. I think it started when I was 7 years old. Like that fire of desire that started burning in my soul. It came from a little boy that wasn't seen, that wanted to be loved. And the connection I had to some of these early powerful emotions was watching the natural love between my brother, my new stepbrother. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden I got a family, and his real dad. And I wanted that really bad too. And, you know, it's funny, there's a little boy or a little girl, I think, that's trapped in every single person in the world. And if you could talk to that child, oftentimes you can do a lot of work. And I didn't go here for a long time, but if you're really going to tell the true story of winning, you got to figure out where that fire started in a person. And usually it starts from a dark place. And for me, this was years of stacking chips on my shoulder. And how I would connect that to an action in the marketplace, really, even as a kid, was I think that if I could work hard and make my dad proud, then he'll love me. Mm. And so when I'd mow the lawn, you know, I'd put a lot of meaning behind a menial task. I'd mow it perfect. I'd spend 4 hours on it. I'd put little diamond patterns in it. I'd triple mow it. It should have taken half hour, take 4 hours. And it was like hoping he'd come home from work and see it and just be blown away. Or, you know, it never really worked out that way. And it's cool because I always put this in if I tell any of these kind of stories, that this is not a victim thing. This is like, what a gift. Because my stepbrother didn't have those stories behind menial actions. You know, his situation was just so different, even we lived in the same roof. But I think that's where my fire, the sort of obsessive nature of me was really, is that I started putting stories behind things that most people weren't putting stories behind. And it gave me a lot of power. And it really advanced my position in life because I always was the hardest worker in the room because I always had so much to prove to the world. And I think that was that 7-year-old fire that was birthed. And from there, I just ran with it. And I took it into everything I did. Sports, I was always small for my age, but I outworked everyone. And by the time I got into high school, it was clear that my path was going to be like Major League Baseball. Mm. That was going to be my ticket out. That was going to be the way that I showed the world and showed my dad that I am somebody. You know, it's kind of my FU to the world was I was going to become somebody. And it showed in the way I worked. And then I had a growth spurt. And then it all started clicking. Mm-hmm. And that's right when I had a career-ending injury. And this was the late 90s. It ended my career, dream over. It was pretty bad surgery that I had. And it led to another surgery that my senior year. And so I lost my identity, but not more than that. Now I'm on OxyContin, and that was the drug that they put me on. And, you know, I was in a lot of pain. You know, made sense, I guess. Probably not, actually. But I watched slowly as I would look in the mirror at myself, me not be able to recognize myself. I was running such a racket because I was so proud, even then, that I couldn't show the world I was hurting and couldn't show my family that I was hurting. So I would present myself as a candy store in the front, and it was clearly a liquor store in the back. And it was right at the time when I was exiting high school, and I was a straight A student. I mean, I just worked hard at everything. And here I am, a secret drug addict, and I went into college, and that's where I basically fell off the planet right around the time my family was going through bankruptcy. There was a lot of stress in my home. They argued about money. Well, I was hard. And again, now I look at it, it's all a gift. But at that time, I just wanted to disappear. And I ended up spending time with the worst humans on planet Earth, like just bad dudes. I was buying kilos of cocaine. By the end of my freshman year in college, I ended up dropping out from the Hells Angels, just bad people I was around. I was just a little kid still, honestly, looking back, like what a racket all this was, because then I'd show up like good boy Erik to my grandma, and, you know, I still had a heart. There was still a good human in there, and I just don't know how lost I was, but it's because I buried these emotions so long. So to be able to tap back into it, it's something I didn't do for almost 20 years. I mean, this story right here, even this one, this is a new phenomenon to tell it, because sort of the aftermath, I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, is I said, well, that guy's murdered. He's never coming back. And if anybody knows the truth about me, they won't love me. They won't like me. My customers, when I got into business, they won't shop with me. They won't let their families go near me. And so I sort of hid what happened to me and until recently. And so it'll be kind of cool, I think, to unpack this all the way to where purpose popped up for me, where winning popped up for me. And then really what I went through was the DEA. They knocked on my door, and one day I'm driving home after selling an ounce, and a cop lights me up, and I looked out the rearview mirror, and I see a foot come out. It's the first thing I remember is a foot, and it's like a cowboy boot with jeans on and a T-shirt, and I was like, oh, this isn't a speeding ticket. I just knew I was fucked, and I was. They knew everything. They've been following me for a year. They knew everything about me. There was like 15 guys. This is in Reno, Nevada, where I grew up. I was going to UNR. Well, I dropped out. Everyone still thought I was in college. But what was interesting is nobody knew I got in trouble. And I'm still somehow selling drugs during that time. So that was the first year on probation for me. And then I met the girl that I knew who she was, but it was the girl that is still my wife today, Jeanette, the one like an angel, right? And I just fell in love with this girl. I always loved her, even from the second I saw her. But I think it was her. I'm on probation. My life's hell. I know there's still a fire in me of goodness somewhere. I could feel that it's in there. And I think it was her that made me spark that I've got to get my shit together. I'm never going to like date a girl like her. I know some dumb thing like that, but it was just the timing, the emotion, everything was right. So I finally went and got help. I get off the opiates at a methadone clinic, and the first place I turned was the gym. So previous to being a drug addict back in the high school days, I was obsessive at the gym, 7-day-a-week human. I've been working out since like 10 years old. And that instantly became the drug of choice that sort of I replaced with opiates. And I got the date, started dating her. And this is where the story gets, this is the lucky part of my life. I think this had to happen for me because I don't realize how much trouble I was in. I've been playing with fire for, this entire time and not getting caught. So lucky. I have no idea how stupid I was. So I started dating this girl, and one day, I got a great job. I'm off the opiates. I'm in the gym. Like my life's going a direction. I got a good relationship with my officer or probation officer. And I'm driving to work, and I got pulled over. I see lights flashing, and I'm good now. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Although every time I see cops, my heart flutters. And I'll never forget it. First foot out was a shoe with a pair of jeans and a T-shirt. I'm like, damn, it just didn't feel right. Guy comes up to my car, just opens it, doesn't even say a word, just opens the damn car and rips me out of it, destroys my car, essentially beats me up on the side of the road. I mean, I wasn't bruised or bleeding, but he like manhandled me on the side of the road, right? All this traffic's flying by, just him, one guy. Now, I'll just tell you now, I didn't know this at the time. This was the ex-boyfriend of the girl I just started dating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a DA cop.
Oh, wow.
He knew everything about me. And I think he's about to set me up, probably looking back, but he didn't, but I'll tell you what happened. So he calls my probation officer, true story. And he goes, Erik's still dealing drugs. We're going to go raid his house right now, my apartment. So my probation officer, when I got there, he was sitting there waiting like this. He was pissed at me because I developed a pretty good relationship with him. I'm like, dude, this is bullshit. I'm trying to talk my way out of something I haven't done. Although looking back, I deserve all this. And
at this point, had you stopped dealing drugs?
Yes, I was done with everything.
Yeah, you were working.
I was rock solid.
Yeah.
I was a VIP host, so I was in a shady environment at a nightclub.
Yeah.
But I made good money. I wore a suit. I was respectable. I was a little baller still. I always had savviness.
You weren't
Not at all.
Yeah.
Zero. No, I got my stuff together. And I was dating this girl. I even look back in those pictures, like I think it's where happiness like finally came back in my life. I just felt real again. But I still had this big secret. No one knew I was an undercover fucking, all that. Just all this heaviness around me, but I'm trying to get it together, and all of a sudden this happens. So all these cops are in my house, and I'll never forget the words, bingo, just screamed out of my bedroom. Bingo. Like, what do you mean bingo? And he came out and he had a fully loaded magazine to a Glock 40 with hollow points in it. And that's a probation violation. But at first I was like, oh, that's all you found? Great. This is easy. You guys left that there 2 years ago when you raided my house. You took the guns. You took all my money. You took the drugs that were here. When I originally got busted, they went back to my house, but they, for whatever reason, left that clip in that same drawer. It sat there all that time. I mean, that's... In my mind, it's like, nah, that's from a previous thing. Didn't matter. The guy just smiled, turned me around, threw me against the wall, hemmed me up, and they took me to jail that night. So all of a sudden, I was supposed to be on my way to work that night, and I just disappeared from the planet. Now I'm in jail with no bail because on a probation violation, there's no bail. And I sat in there for 3 months waiting to see a judge.
Oh.
3 months is how long it took. And now all of a sudden, like now it's real. Something changed in me in that jail for over a 3-month period. And my parents, I don't know how I kept it hidden from them. I just think they were so in their own world because of all the stress they were going through. But I was able to sort of keep this going. And my probation officer finally came in and says, hey, you got a court date, but I want to tell you something, man, you're going to go to prison. I think you should start making arrangements. And I'm just like, and I just put my hands in my head in my hands, and I realized I just gave my life away. Like somehow I just ruined my entire life. It was the worst feeling in the world. I was so sick.
How old were you?
I was probably 22.
Oh, young kid.
22 still. Yeah, it was all kind of in this 20, right out of high school to 21, 22, 23-ish. And I was sick to my stomach, and he goes, you need to call your family. He knew I hadn't talked to my family at all, and he goes, you need to let them know. So I called my dad. That was one of the hardest phone calls I've ever had to make. It's like everything in my life has now been a complete racket, and I'm going to admit it to him now because, he thought I'm great. I was able to always present myself as a winner somehow, even though I was dying inside. And again, once I started dating Jeanette, I kind of like picked up where the story was, and it was kind of real now. I'm doing good. I wasn't. And, it's cool. He helped me. He didn't have much, but he found the best drug attorney in town. And we literally saw a judge that I think it was the next day or 2 days later. It was very close to that probation officer coming to visit me in jail. And I'm sitting in this courtroom, and I'm watching this mean ass judge just fire away. And I could feel him about to send it. I literally can see him picking up the gavel after he's done berating me for what a piece of shit I am, about to send me to prison. And right at the last minute, I remember looking at this lawyer like, who are you? Say something. Mm-hmm. He was just quiet the whole time. And then you couldn't have waited another second. He said, Judge, permission to approach the bench. So he slowly walks up to the bench, and the DA's there, and they're whispering for about 5 minutes. And then that judge stands up, and he tells me to stand up. And I remember trying to stand up. My knees were so wobbly, I could not stand up. I literally was like out of a body experience. And my dad was the only person there in that courtroom with me. And I'll never forget, I could feel him grip my scruff, like gripped me. And he said, stand the fuck up. And he pulled my ass up. And that judge looked at me and he goes, do you have any idea how lucky you are? He goes, I was about to just sentence you to 25 years. Do you have any idea how lucky you are? And he goes, if you spit on a sidewalk, you're coming back here. It's over. Get out of my courtroom. And so I feel like this is this moment that I like to just somehow really reflect heavy on is, if you could gift that feeling that I had in like the story that I put around that emotion, if you could gift that to anyone in the world, that could be the greatest gift a human could ever have. Because when I left there, my car had been repoed, my apartment got repoed, I had no clothes, nothing. I came in a suit because I was on my way to a nightclub job, and I left in a suit with black shiny shoes. And that's all I owned. I didn't own anything else, but it didn't matter. I was a free man in my mind, and I was not going to let this opportunity go. And you want to talk about where savagery comes from, like just this deep fire of like the regret, the shame, the guilt, the emotions behind all of me turned me into an animal. And the first job I got after I went to my parents' house, slept on the couch, and just literally, if you knew me before that period of time, you never talked to me again. You might hear the show, like I used to know him, I've never talked to you again. I just shut the world out. And I got a job at Amazon as a seasonal picker in a town that was 2 hours away. And my shift started at 5 a.m. And I'll end here, so bear with me. The story, I just like to cap it with this because this is, I think, where the money's at. And it's a 1 million square foot building, and I think there's like 10,000 employees. It's a big operation, obviously. And one of the things with the pickers is they would rank the top 20 in the building every week. And it was always the same guy's name at number one. And I didn't even see anything else. I didn't see two, might as well have been 1,000. I didn't care who's number one. And something got in me at this moment. And I just made a decision that I'm going to be the number one picker in this damn building. And what's interesting is the guy that was number one, his name was Sam. He was like 6'4", just very skilled at that job. He'd been doing it for almost a decade, and he was just effortless. How he moved through that building, how he picked items off a shelf, as simple as that may seem. He was gifted at it. You know, he had experience and he had talent from my perspective. So the only way I was going to be number one is I just have to outwork him. It's the only way that's going to happen. And so what I would do is like Forrest Gump, I just started running. And I became known as the guy in the building that ran. And I was always getting in trouble, and it didn't really matter because like I just walk really fast past managers. Second I turn out an aisle that's a mile long, I just sprint and I take my fucking cart like I was like a witch with my broom, just running. And slowly but surely I hit the top 20, the top 15, top 10. And then one day it happened, just boom. I was number one in the building, Erik Rock, right there. And that was a powerful moment for me because it taught me something. And what I learned is, if you're the hardest worker in the room and you show up like that every single day, sooner or later, that effort will outpace talent and it will outpace experience. And that was one of the greatest gifts to sort of absorb as a young man. It was just fire in my soul. And that took me literally into these rooms where slowly but surely the hardest worker in the room would become the most valuable person in the room, and people would start giving me opportunities. They wanted me on their team. And that literally took me right to entrepreneurship, which became the greatest drug in the world for someone that had that kind of fire burning in their soul.
Where was your girl at this time?
She was kind of with me the whole time. You know, it's funny. I was like, why'd you pick me? Like, you know, she could have had anybody.
Yeah.
She's a beautiful girl, like good girl too. Never screwed up. And like, she's the type of girl, like you want her as a friend.
Sure.
She's rock solid, but you're going to have to earn it. She's not like, she doesn't throw up who she is. She's not catty. She's just such a solid human. She's so different than me. Like I'm a ball that bounces off the wall. She's she's the wall. And I said, why are you with me all this time? She goes, I just knew you were going to do good. You're just the type of guy, you're going to do it. You were just going to do good. She's like, I could feel it in you. I was like, oh, you knew that? You saw that? Even though I was a crackhead crook? She goes, yeah. She goes, and you made me laugh. She goes, you're funny. I was like, oh, that's funny.
How long have you guys been married?
We got married in 2012, and I dated her, you know, many years before that. I mean, going back to like 24, 25, 24.
So then from Amazon, that's when it really just struck the
game on.
Of just going into entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And
I was an animal. I gripped things. I could talk to anyone. I was hungry. I was confident. I was aggressive. I had endorphins pumping through my veins every single day. I worked hard. I exhausted myself. And I became a contagious person to bring into your camp. You know, I went through a lot of different opportunities, and I just kept finding that I'd be the most valuable person in this room. And it's always those people that have assets and resources and gifts to give that want me underneath them working for them. And at some point, you know, we took advantage of an opportunity. We got into business for ourselves. And that first business we opened, we lived in the store on a blow-up mattress, me and my wife, and I just married her for an entire year. But we went all in on a business. And what I liked about the idea is that, well, it can't kill me. Like I would just always kind of live that way after the jail thing. Like nothing was that scary that I couldn't try it. And what I realized is, looking back especially, you can always connect the dots looking back. The reason I covered so much ground is because there was this big, dark, scary dragon always behind me. And every time I look, it was right there no matter how hard I run. So I was running this way away from something constantly. And what it left me realizing is that the fear of the actions that most people are scared of were not nearly as scary for me as the fear of inaction, which was sort of represented as a dragon for me. And it kept me just trying things, taking risks, doing things. Even if I didn't know what I was doing, I'd jump into it and I'd pour my heart into it. And it always sort of led me to the next level, the next human, the next resource. And it was one person at a time that I absorbed the best of what they'd have to offer into my soul. And it became part of my landscape, my foundation, how I communicated. And, you know, when I got into business, it was the customers. Every single customer that came in became a valuable resource for me. Everything I learned about business came from my customers. It wasn't from coaching. It wasn't from mentors that I hired. There was no social media. I just poured my heart into my customers. And, you know, our first business was furniture and jewelry. Well, we got into jewelry later, but it was big box retail is what we ended up doing. And I didn't even know one brand of furniture when I started. But how do I own a furniture business?
Yeah.
Well, the whole concept is the opportunity was there. I didn't need to know. I just know if I'm there, I'm going to make it valuable. And I would obsess over like, how do I take this ugly, small, weird, cracky little business, and how do I make it sexy? And I literally learned through like the lens of like my customers, what's valuable, what's not. Like, you know, like where do I want to be with the business? And where I wanted to be was in the best homes in America. Like, how can my furniture and how can my clientele be the richest people in America? How do I get in the celebrities' homes? How do I get in the athletes' homes? It's just, I like sexy shit. I wanted it to be pretty. I hated ugly, junky stuff, and everything we would get is ugly, junky. It started as a consignment business.
Oh, okay.
And then it turned into, it kind of just slowly morphed. And it was one customer at a time that would become, I think, more of a fan of me, and they'd want to give me their business. And, you know, it took a while, but little bit by little bit, our business sort of grew into the biggest brick and mortar furniture and jewelry consignment stores in the country. We opened up other locations.
Where did you start?
Well, it started in Reno as a tiny little operation. It was a business that was going out of business because the owners ran away with all the consigners' money, and there was just a little bit of inventory left. And my dad it was his idea. He went all in on it, and I thought he was so crazy at the time. And then, but he was selling cars. He used to run his father's drugstore for like 20 years. It was called Dick Rock's Ideal Drugs. It was a local pharmacy for 50 years.
Dick Rock.
That was my grandpa. And anyway, but he jumped into it. And at some point I saw the opportunity like, well, sky's the limit. Boss, let me just do this with you. And we opened our second location in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And that's how I ended up there. And what I spotted in that market, it was kind of like Lake Tahoe to me, but prior to Silicon Valley blowing up and changing property values, it seemed untapped. Like it hadn't been found out yet.
Yeah.
Great people, quality living, and just a beautiful place. So I went all in on that market, and that's really where magic all happened for me, is in that market.
Yeah, I have some friends that live up there, family friends, Coeur d'Alene.
Still running like up in?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
Good for you guys.
Yeah, real estate became sort of the vehicle where a lot of the wealth was created, a lot of the big wins. The 100x, some of these 100x opportunities sort of came out of the necessity for needing a big building. And we were able to get these buildings for pennies on the dollar, these big box commercial buildings. And then all of a sudden, these types of markets that we were in started just expanding fast. And, the first building we spent $3 million on. And I remember it was such a scary thing. It was an Ashley Furniture Home Store building that went out of business in 2008. The building was basically brand new. I looked at it for 2 years, obsessing, how can we buy this? I had no money. There's no way how you can do it. And I remember one day I finally just said, let's put an offer in. And we ended up finding a way to secure that building for $3.5 million. Just a few short years later, it appraised at 11.5 when we refinanced out of the SBA loan. Yeah. So these became sort of like, oh, that's how that works. That's what wealth looks like. Let me try this again. And let me do this. And let me partner on this. And, one of the cool parts about you start doing that game and you're a user for a lot of these spaces, you have such unique upside in the market if you can buy a building and be a user for it, because you can get in with hardly any money down with the SBA loan. And I kind of saw that. Our family saw it. We started positioning that way, and it really led me to some of the greatest relationships in the world, some of the biggest partnerships a human can have. I've been able to develop, and these are just titans of industry that I've been able to partner with. And it's like the old guy in the room, I think, that has a lot of wealth and a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. He would see this young, hungry workhorse that spoke his language, that cared about everything, cared about children, cared about politics, just cared about just health, the healthy world. And they would see small pieces of themselves in me when they were younger. And I would really tap into that frequency and I would own it, and I would never violate it. And I would be such a good gatekeeper to very powerful people, and they would just hand you opportunities. If you're willing to really be bold and courageous and consistent, and a man of action, there's nothing you can't do, because sooner or later, the old guys that are slowing down and they're looking at their legacy and their footprints are huge, they need guys like us to fill those shoes. Mm-hmm. And it's just an interesting way to look at how it all works. The people that actually keep the world going round. It's not government, it's not institutions, it's not schools. It's people like us that are doing this kind of work, and it's where purpose sort of pops in. And legacy for a lot of these people, where it's not about money anymore. But first you got to figure out how to win. I just convinced that that's the guy that's going to do a lot of dangerous things in the world that are really valuable. Once you know that your foundation speaks for you, and you don't even have to talk. And that is a really powerful place to get in life, because now you can be very effective with people that actually take you seriously. It's one thing to talk. It's one thing to say it. It's one thing to even actually do it. And then the other thing I love to put in, it's a whole other thing to sort of teach it. Once the foundation's right and you're actually doing it, if you could teach this stuff to someone else, it makes you just such a valuable human. And this is all the stuff that was sort of birthed out of that fire. The one big problem I had was I had no purpose. And I didn't realize this till my grandma died when I was 35. And this is a really big part of my story. It's the most powerful part, I think, is here I am living this dream life. It's a one-on-one life. I feel like I got there, checked all the boxes. I had all the toys, all the stuff, all the things. And my grandma passed away. And I never really obsessed over death before. And every night when I go to bed, I just kept thinking about my coffin after she died. Because time became this elusive thing that I just started obsessing over. And I'm pretty indefatigable. So if I'm struggling with something, I fight till I can find a solution that I can put to bed. I never asked these types of questions before, like what happens if a baby dies? Like this is so far from God and faith at that point, because like I was trying to find tangible, bizarre answers to questions that no one can answer. Well, the baby hasn't developed language. It hasn't developed a personality. It hasn't developed what does that soul in heaven look like? What does heaven look like? My grandma just passed away. Am I gonna recognize her if I see her again? Is she gonna be the old grandma, or is she gonna be the child grandma? Is she gonna be the middle-aged grandma? Just dumb stuff. Like why even ask it, right? And again, a lot of people could throw holes in this, but it's what happened to me. It's just the truth of what happened. So I went on this quest, and what was interesting is I didn't realize that I was being guided somewhere this whole time. And I was guided to two places. The first place I was guided to was the reality that, oh my God, I have no purpose. The reason death is such a big deal for me, and I'm just like, my wife would look at me at 1 a.m. and I'm just frozen in bed, and she looked like, well, are you okay? Like, no, I'm not okay. Like, this is going to end so quick. Like obsessively fascinated by trying to solve this problem that I cannot solve. Mm-hmm. And a year went on, and two things happened first before I tell you where I landed. I really learned how to leverage it, because if I can't solve it, is there any gold I can pull out of this? And it was. So if I'm with you right now and I put death in the table before I engage, it changes my frequency, changes my vibrancy. I'm way more effective. I'm more valuable. I can love harder. I'll hug harder. You feel it. You can really change the circumstances quickly when you put death into every decision that you make. What it does, it takes all the negative stuff off the table that doesn't matter, and it leaves only the chess pieces that actually have weight, that carry real intrinsic value. And then you play with those chess pieces, and what makes you is very effective as a human. That's what I started using it for. And I was still trying to get somewhere, and I didn't realize that I was sort of being guided not only to the realization that I had no purpose, even though I'd been winning and I felt like I had everything, and the realization that I've been running from something, not to something, which is a very powerful thing to understand. But I was also being guided to the man that I credit for changing my life. And one of the things I always pose is, when the right person asks the right question at the right time, your life can change. And that person for me was Ed Milet. Of all people that could have sort of came in my life at the right time, it was Ed. And Ed did something just so wild to me with basically only a few questions. And from there on, my whole trajectory and direction changed.
What did he ask you?
I figured you'd ask. I feel like I'm talking way too much.
No, it's all. This is about you.
Yeah, bro, we're listening.
Like this
go.
Like,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you. As
that's
long
what
as you
it's
guys.
about.
All right.
Yeah.
It's hard to like tell the story. I could slow
No,
it
you
down
have
and
to.
talk
It's
a little.
the foundation. People want to know who you are and where, like, how you started. So.
Well, I appreciate you. Here's what's good about this part is, no matter what your story is or where you came from, like anybody in this room could be very effective with someone that's been through trauma, and almost everybody goes through. They go through some experience. They go through pain. Like, again, we talked about these universal emotions that I think you must have them to win first and foremost. But purpose, not everybody finds it. There was a wealth research study done in 2016 that said that 98% of people die without achieving their dreams. And I thought, well, how can that be real? There's no way that can be true. That's a lot. That's a high volume number of people that have never got near their closest potential. Mm-hmm. Or, there's just no purpose there probably, right? And, the stats that surrounded that were really alarming about how much people are suffering. And sometimes, like, we forget. When you start winning in life and you're only around, like, humans that win, and that's kind of what my reality was, is, like, you forget how much people are suffering. I'm only around positive people. I'm only around doers, problem solvers, solution finders. And here I am sort of juggling this idea of purpose. And I come to this hard realization that most people in life, and they never get near it. And why is that? I really want to know why that is. And here I am at 35 with everything, and I feel like I have nothing. So it sort of clicked in this moment a little bit. And so here I am with Ed. He was a neighbor of mine. We had mutual relationships, and I knew who he was. I admired him. He's great, modern day Tony Robbins. And Ed's a powerful force. But then I had a chance to sort of like actually work one-on-one with him. And I'd been invited to this party that he was at, and I was with him, and I don't know what got into me. Like, I just came out. I was like, "Can I work with you?" Like, it was just, I knew that I was going to go there for that. Even though I didn't define it, I just somehow, like, I knew I was supposed to be there. And he normally wouldn't work with, quote unquote, a civilian, but he did. And he's working with athletes, MMA fighters, politicians at the time. Ed was, he's expensive to work with. He's not a cheap guy. His time's valuable. So when I first met with him on our first meeting, I'm sitting in his house in La Quinta, and again, you're in front of this powerful man, and you don't really know the real him until you're with the real him, and it's a larger than life energy that's hard to describe, because he knows who he is, and that's the one thing that I could feel in his presence. And you're in this powerful place where you have Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, right next door, literally. You have Hailey Bieber and Justin Bieber across the street. You have every Jenner and Kardashian, literally every one of them right up the road. You have Sylvester Stallone right here, and Phil Knight, right, walks his dog past this house every day. So you're in this really powerful place, one of these, these most prestigious neighborhoods in the world, in front of this powerful force. And he looks down at me, and I'm sitting on the couch, and he says, "So what's your brand?" Very first question he asked me, "What's your brand?" And like, I'm going through all the things in my head that I do, and well, I did furniture. I got this thing, but I know what he meant. Nobody knows who I am. I don't have a brand. And he goes, "Okay, well, who do you help?" And here I go again. I'm like, well, I'm on the board of this and that. I did this. I Make-A-Wish. I'm on the board there. And I'm going through all the things that people that I help, kids and all the things. But I know what he meant, and I could feel it. And the truth is, I'm playing really damn small. Now, I'd never felt so like small before, because I'm usually a very confident person by this time in my life. I was very assured of everything, but I felt really small, very see-through, and I felt like he could see the racket that I was playing. And then he asked me the third question. He said, "Why are you here?" And I just felt like I almost got emotional. I don't know. Like, I have everything, and I feel like I have nothing. And I don't know why I'm here. Maybe you can help. I don't know. Mm-hmm. A guy that's like $40,000 an hour is like something you create a pain point like that. He's expensive. You just, you better get something out of this. And, these are pretty simple questions. And then he asked me the last question. He said, "Who are you?" And he goes, No. Really, who are you? I don't know. Again, I've been through all this, hell and back. I've done all this winning, all this checkbox. You see, I'm winning, Dad. I'm winning. You see, I'm winning. Look whose jet I'm on, Dad. I'm winning. All those years of like, that was what defined me. That was my identity, as I'm a winner. And I felt like I had nothing. I just was so empty. And no one even knew the truth, because I couldn't really let anybody know. I still had to keep the face. I showed up and worked still. I'm obsessing over death. And it was in that moment that Ed basically told me what I'm going to do. And again, when the right person asks the right question at the right time, it can change you. When the right person tells you to do something at the right time, you do it. He says, "Here's what you're going to do, brother. You're going to step into the light." He goes, "And I don't know your story, but you're a powerful force. It's in there. I feel it. You're a rare human. You're going to step in the light. You're going to pour it out for the rest of your life. You're just going to bleed for everybody else. You're going to go out there and you're going to build a powerful brand in the light." And my first instinct, this true story, was, well, I tried that one time and it's not for me. And it was true. 10 years earlier, I've been given an opportunity to speak on a big stage at the Bellagio in front of a huge real estate group conference. It was one of my customers that gave me the opportunity to do it. He thought, "You'd be a great keynote." I was winning big at that time. And he goes, "You just be perfect." He just knew I'd be perfect. So I get up on the stage, and I've been super prepared. I mean, I literally had every word written out, because that's how much preparation I did. I get up in front of the stage. Thank God there was a podium, because I could put the speech down. And I just knew I was going to speak this from the heart. So I needed a place to see it. And anyway, I thought I'll do good. This is well written. And I remember looking out at that audience, and first and foremost, the adrenaline was pumping my body was so bad that I felt like I was going to have a spasm in my stomach. It felt like the butterflies were going to explode out of my soul. My esophagus felt really, really dry. And there was butterflies in there too that were starting to pop out. And I never felt so sickly. And I'm looking at this audience, and I'm just if you would have asked me my name, I don't know, because my prefrontal cortex started shutting down. I just couldn't even remember vocabulary. And I tried to talk into the mic, and my mouth was so dry that the tongue couldn't move from the top of my mouth. It was stuck. And I remember walking off that stage. It was one of the most embarrassing sort of feelings I had in my heart. Like, it just was. I just knew I just failed. But I told myself two things. This is important to hear. Because where we start telling ourselves the story is important to understand how and where it might pop up. This was a very important story that I told myself. I walked off and I said, "I'm not born to do this," number one. And the second story I told myself was, the people that are good at this, they were born to do this. And that was it. I'm going to go back to winning behind the scenes, the old fashioned way. I don't need all this, stepping in the light shit, the social media. Those guys are all clowns anyway. Really easy to start putting stories behind it because I'm a real winner, old school, I don't do social media or whatever. This was, 10 years ago. And so these were the type of energy that I put around that topic. Well, here I am 10 years in the future in front of this powerful force. And he's saying, no, you're going to do it. You're just going to do it. And and how right he was. That stepping in the light thing as I started to pursue it, now there's a pain point. I got death on the table. Why not? And I started to mimic the things that I saw happening around me. It's not like Ed gave me a blueprint. His time's too valuable. You don't use time with Ed that's that expensive to go over small details. You talk about life. You build a bond. You build a friendship, a real trust and connection. You don't waste time on information. You think you would. It's not what you do with it. You really want to connect to the man. And it's all you can do with that limited amount of time that's that pricey. So I had to sort of mimic what I saw happen around me. And that's where Man on a Mission was born. I decided to call it Man on a Mission, which is kind of like a divine thing that just popped up in my head because I realized I have no mission. I have no purpose. I have no mission. So I became a man on a mission and I started my podcast called Man on a Mission. And I didn't know where that would take, but I knew it was like it was a clever way to get organic content that probably could be captured that I could probably pull off. And that quickly turned into a big community of local entrepreneurs in my Coeur d'Alene market. And what we would do is we ended up renting out the most beautiful space, I think, in America. It's this glass, beautiful bubble that sits on Lake Coeur d'Alene right in front of the floating green, 16-foot glass walls that disappear. And we did this for a year and a half, every single Thursday at 7 a.m. We'd bring in these entrepreneurs. We'd bring in speakers. I spent so much money pouring into this to make it beautiful. And it had to have my standard. It was a high-ticket event, and we ended up getting about 80 entrepreneurs. And one of the things we did is, again, especially I wish I could show you the scene. Thursday morning, 7 a.m., the sun would crest over the mountain, over that lake.
Beautiful.
And we'd have this big stage. And we would tell the people in the room, you can only go as high as you once been low. And we would challenge people to get on stage and give their testimony. We called them mission talks. We would record them. We'd give these people all these digital assets to go build their brand with. Here I am, the creator of all this, right? No one really knows that there's a big racket going on inside me. And then that's where I really learned to master the stage myself. I would get up on the stage, I pour in, and we had a format for it, and then speakers would come up, you'd have to sign up. But I remember sitting in the back almost every Thursday listening to testimony of people that have never spoke before, being absolutely freaking mind blown. Some of the best stories I've ever heard in my life, top 5 speeches I've ever heard, 3 of the 5 came out of that Man on a Mission community from people that have never spoke before. I remember a girl who I worked with, and she just got out of a big divorce, and her husband was a very powerful man, and she was broken. He was abusive. She'd been through hell. She had all these medical things too, and she just had a tough story. Beautiful girl, so smart, but she was so broken. She joins Man on a Mission, and her biggest dragon in the world was getting on stage and telling the truth. And so I challenged her to do it, right? And I had to work through this process. It was like a 3-month deal. Every time we make a little ground, she'd say, I can't do it. But she was so talented. I just knew there was a winner in her, like a beast. And so she finally, her day comes to do her speech comes. I'll never forget how amazing this was. She's on stage and she starts shaking. She's got this paper. It's all written out. Of course, with her, everything had to be perfect. Mm-hmm. I knew she was going to go about the wrong way. I knew she was going to position and posture, and it was going to be half-assed. I'm sure it'll be good for most people, but it was going to be half-assed for me. And she's shaking. Here she goes. She starts to do it, and she's shaking so bad, and she finally stops and takes a deep breath. And I lean in. I was like, do it. And she doesn't. She rips it up. She throws it in the trash. She takes a deep breath, and she just starts speaking from the heart. And she tells one of the most powerful stories of what she went through and where she's at. And this is a girl that after her divorce, she started a hormone company that particularly really helps women. She talked to how she got her health back through holistic health and through integral health. So she started a company around that. And that was sort of the byproduct of the pain that she kind of unfolded through this whole audience. But what was interesting is what she thought we were witnessing in the audience was her standing on stage, slowly taking off her clothes, getting naked in front of all of us. You could feel that she felt that emotion. But what we were actually witnessing was we were watching a $1 billion brand become born, because that's the woman right there that can affect millions of women's lives all around the world. That's the one. In a world where every girl is going to this way and the forces of nature are pulling this way, you're the type of person that's going to go this way. And it was amazing to see what the light could do for other people, because I could feel it changing me too. And this is where purpose started entering my life. I just had this one big problem. I've seen everyone else go low and give their testimony, but no one really knew who I was. I had never once in my life ever told my testimony. I didn't tell my drug story. I was so convinced if anybody knew the truth about me, they wouldn't like me, they wouldn't love me. I just built that story in my head when I was younger, especially in business, because I was around these incredibly powerful people in business that were my greatest customers, and they adored me, and they brought me in like a family member in many cases. These were some of the greatest mentors that I ever had. I've absorbed hundreds of great people's like energy. It became my energy. And I thought if they knew the truth about me, they're going to know I've been lying, I've been running a racket, I've been manipulating all my business partners. Everyone thought kind of I was just a good kid, that I came, I had baseball dreams that maybe fell apart, and that's all I said. I was so like, I can never tell this story, and I always said I murdered that person, but what I realized is I didn't murder that person. It's that little kid that's always been living inside me. He's right here. He's been there this whole time. He's all alone. He's so afraid. And I think it's that sort of that fear that's sort of built into the fire that keeps me trying to prove myself. And that is such a beautiful racket, because it gives you a lot of gifts when you learn how to leverage pain the right direction. But it will not bring you to purpose until you start asking the right questions.
Damn. Good shit, man. Mm-hmm. Really good shit.
I want to ask you something. I'm new. What's the most important thing you're going to tell me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm new. Like, I know what I would try to say. Like, I'm going to ask you guys too. Like, say someone comes to you in business. What is one of the things that you're going to tell me, or the few things you're going to tell me to just to start? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I always go to one place.
Where is it?
It's just my one place I send you. Is I teach you how to have a place every single day where you have a little bit of courage, and I connect it to the same dot. It's endorphins. If I just don't start anywhere with anybody except like really mastering the discipline of that one habit, just one habit of making sure you tax your central nervous system every day. And what I like to do is just slip in the thoughts that when your endorphins are teeming through your body, and all that oxygen's pumping through,
you're hot.
It's your moment of courage, and that's where I want you to start, like making hard decisions, is when you feel good in that little moment. So this little window of courage where I think I've made all my biggest decisions. They always came in that window when leaving the gym. I won't make a decision unless I've worked out, and I won't make a hard decision unless I'm in a flow state. And if you really start to leverage the connection right, I don't work out for my body. I don't work out for abs. I could give two shits. Mm-hmm. The reason I'm obsessive about it is because it's my window when I'm not insecure. It's a window when I'm courageous. It's a window when I believe the impossible, and when something far away all of a sudden seems very close. The hardest phone calls I've ever made that have made me the most money have been in those windows when endorphins are pumping through my body, and I have the courage to make the phone call and then pour it out.
That's nice. So you have your time of day. So I have my time of day too. I'm a morning guy.
What time is it?
I'm 5 till about 1:30.
Love it.
By 2 o'clock, I'm done.
Same way.
Never talk to him at like 7:30 at night.
No, me and you were alike.
I'm slurring by then.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Right.
But what I got from your talk right at the beginning, when you put your customers first, my grandfather taught me that. That's fucking, and we lost that in the last 25 years. That's customer service, bro.
So true.
I learned that's the one thing that I took with my father, my father and my grandfather and my father. That's the only thing they said, bro, if you have customer service and everything and that's a lot. That's love, that's integrity, that's honesty, that's all those things that you were talking about. If you have customer service, you have the world.
That's right.
Because no one has that today.
Agree.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So that's what I got from.
That's a timeless.
Timeless.
I
bro.
mean, I hate to quote the damn fucking motivational speakers, but they're all so right. It's easy to be great today because people are so weak.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's really easy, and I say this with sadness in my heart because I want everybody to tap into that greatness that every single person has. Yeah. See, you tapped into it. Every single one of us at this table has tapped into that same damn thing that you talked about, getting up on that stage. Maybe not in that big of a stage for your first and only and ever public speaking keynote event.
Yeah.
But you stepped out in courage, even though you failed,
Right.
even though you blew it. There's not one of us sitting at this table that hasn't gotten up in front of a crowd of people and left feeling like we fucking blew it.
Right.
Blew it.
Exactly.
But guess what we did? We got back up on that stage again. I've gotten up on a stage and fucking poured sweat. But what I did is I finished my speech no matter what. And when I owned my sweat at that point. I was just like, screw it. I'm going to own it. Kind of like that lady. I don't get overly prepared to speak anymore. I just don't, because what I've learned is great speakers tell stories, and the only people in the world that knows your story better than you is God, and nobody out there in that audience knows your story better than you do. So grab it, take those little pieces. And when I step out into the light, I got to step out into the light with with a power greater than me, whatever that is for people. I don't put a specific anything on anything. I call mine God. They can call it whatever they want.
Sure.
But when you get that little extra, just be a vessel for that goodness, that greatness, and just let it flow through you and let it come natural. You know?
Yeah.
It does take a minute. It does take work, though. Like, I've had to write everything out, and so that I know it, and and speak it and speak it and speak it and speak it until it's become like intuitive to me.
Yeah.
But like, just like you today telling your story, it flows because it's coming from within you. It's come from a place of your heart and and passion. There's passion behind all of it, and I mean, and that's really all people need. Passion. You know, I think, like, I without even asking you what, and I don't even care what you do for business, but for a living. But what I know your purpose is your purpose is to help other people find that inner greatness within themselves. Yeah. You know, and that's what brings you that satisfaction.
It's
because like Shane was saying, man, like if money is your why, you're going to lose, because there's always gains and losses when it comes to business. There's too much, and there's no there is zero satisfaction in
Or you're
life.
drinking.
Or
you're going to start doing something. The money's not going to be there. You're going to find other vices. That's just life. I know a lot of those billionaires and rich guys, man.
And they're not happy.
They're not happy. They're drinking. Their wives are miserable.
And a lot of them commit suicide.
A lot of them are killing. Yeah, exactly.
Money increases the inner bad habits. So if you're already an addict or an alcoholic, you're going to be a bigger one.
If you're already a womanizer, you're going to be a bigger one.
So it's like having that, it's clear just by what has happened through history, from people making it, thinking, having the money, having the car, having the wife or the spouse or this and that. And all of a sudden you read about this individual committing suicide, right? It's because you're trying to fill a hole within yourself that can't be filled with materialistic things, and you're going to hear people say, yes, of course, people that say that is because they have money. That's not true, though, because those people are also the ones that are committing suicide, whether or not they have money or not.
But here's the
money
thing.
makes things easier.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
You need the money to have the purpose. That's what I'm saying.
100%.
No, you don't.
No,
No,
what?
you need to have the purpose to have.
No, you can't. I don't know.
No, you can't have the money first.
Why not?
Because
Those people that have no money can't have the purpose.
Yes,
they
they
can't afford
can.
the fucking purpose.
you don't need to. Purpose costs you $0. Purpose costs you effort.
Purpose takes time.
No,
You got to help people.
I was broke as fuck when I found my purpose.
Exactly.
I had
Exactly.
$0.
But purpose became your job.
So you need to have purpose before you have money.
No, I had money and then I found my purpose.
Me too.
Yeah, same.
I had fame and fortune.
I think it could go both ways.
Yeah,
I
it
think-
could.
I think-
You went one way. I went the other way.
Yeah, it could go both
Yeah, it
ways.
could go both ways, bro.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
But I'm
could-
going to argue my side
but
because
you're going to be
I think you're lucky.
unsatisfied.
Yeah, you got lucky.
You got lucky.
You got lucky, man.
because but most people don't. Most people in this world don't have a purpose. They're going to work,
Like robots.
making money
Yeah.
like robots.
Yeah, to survive.
Yeah.
But you know what it always narrows down to is you were made to be of service.
Yes.
Whatever that may be.
Everyone in this
So
chair has
my-
had that same conclusion, just
right.
like what you
So
just
That
like my
is
dad
the
worked in the grocery business, but he was of service to people.
Yeah.
He brought people goods
Yeah.
and things that they needed and conversation
Yeah.
and couldn't wait to come into the grocery store to see Barry
Yeah.
and see what's up. Like that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about you have to serve others
100%.
in whatever
So my other
capacity that
point-
may be.
Yeah, my other point to all of this is that you don't have to be have money, fortune, and fame to have your purpose and be happy.
No.
Not everybody's
True.
purpose is to have all of that stuff. Some people, like your dad,
Barry. His name's
Frederick is, but they call him Barry because his other dad. He has like multiple names, like myself.
Barry,
Yeah,
Barry.
Big B.
found joy in doing that, and he didn't need
Yeah.
all that extra. I like the extra just because I like to be able to continue to give back with that extra.
Yeah, you
and
can
help-
amplify it.
Yeah, I can amplify it.
Yeah, the extra leads to a shorter life, though. It just does.
No, but you have to think there's
We
gonna
will
be
see.
there's every individual.
No, I'm
is
with the
different.
extra too. I'm
And
going to
what
die early
I
too, bro.
want
But it
will
just
be different
happens.
than
That's
what
the
you want.
stress.
And
The
that's
extra brings the
okay.
stress.
So having the extra is not a negative.
No,
so
the
what,
extra
what
brings the
fulfills
stress.
others is not necessarily going to be the same as your neighbor. Do you know what I'm saying? Where like we all have different desires and different wants. So like I'm always wanting more, something topping whatever that is
Yeah.
because that's just within me.
Yeah.
Some people want completely the opposite.
What
And that's fine.
I think what I found is, especially when it comes to like business, the business of extra, we'll call it, for the sake of this part of the conversation,
Yeah.
is that the people that could retire, quote unquote, but don't, is at the end of the day is they love what they do so much. They love the game of the chess moves. They love the game of the deal, the strategy. Like most of my partners, they don't need to work. You know, one of them's a billionaire who's like a second father to me. He's just become so profound in my life. But this guy cannot stop like chewing in his head. He just is in love with what he does. And so he'll just do it forever. But I think if he stopped doing it, he'd probably die.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So he keeps him going. It gives him, it's his purpose
Gives
is
him something
creation.
to wake up.
Yeah.
Gives him
I
something
was
to like
talking
wake
to
up
my
to
mom this morning. My dad,
right.
he's the most expensive. He's the highest paid shipper in the world. He ships. My dad is gone. He goes to shipping every day. He doesn't do business anymore. He just ships. He goes, gets boxes, puts them on the truck, and the truck takes them off. That's what he does every day.
Yep.
Yeah. So he doesn't want her. He's 80 something, 82.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to find something that makes you excited to wake up,
Yeah.
you know, and gives you that desire.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Life is
Yeah,
hard.
life is
Anybody, regardless if you have money or not,
Yeah.
is difficult
Yeah.
from any angle that you look at it. So it's once you find something that gets you excited and fills some void that you're constantly searching for, then you found it, whatever that may be. For
Who
your
is
dad,
it
it's
that
shipping.
says choose your heart? Who says choose your heart?
You know who does it?
No, I don't.
Goggins.
Is it Goggins?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
A
say
lot of
it.
people say it though.
So I
Choose
think-
your heart for
Yeah.
real
I don't
though.
know who the original was, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I've stumbled onto that I think has been just a gift, and I naturally came across it, and I didn't realize I was practicing inadvertently one of the greatest philosophies in the world, Stoicism.
Oh, for sure.
I'm such a fan of it now, and I wasn't turned on to Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus.
Did you read any Ryan Holiday's books?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
And-
Awesome. Yeah.
But what I started doing was I started gamifying things. I originally sort of started gamifying situations, and what I found is it would just take the negative stuff off the table. And I'd always think about, like, I'll give you an example. It could be something dumb in life. Someone throws an egg at your car on the
Sure.
freeway, and that if you're an alpha male, like that rage that I feel it as like a blood pressure in my throat when someone fucks with me, like it's in me. Like I'm grown. Like I'll fight. I just feel that, right? If that happens to me and a guy flips me off, if I had a Glock 40 sitting right here, the instinct in me is to just let him know that I could take you out. Like it's just an honest reaction to that visceral feeling that a man might feel. And a lot of men actually may act on this feeling. My ability to sort of recognize that feeling before it turns into an action is something I don't like. I instantly can connect it to a game that the universe just made a beautiful chess move against me. It's such a dumb thing, but this is where I stumbled on accident onto this, is because I didn't like the way it made me feel when I would react to something. And so I would say, is like, oh, instead of that guy screwing me over or throwing an egg in my car, that was the universe that just made a wonderful chess move against me. And sort of since I'm playing a game, it took the pressure off of this feeling, and I could take one deep breath and pull back and just like have a triggered thought because of a feeling that I now put a trigger to. It's an emotion that it doesn't matter what happens. It's the feeling that has a trigger. And all of a sudden I think of a chess piece. And what I do is instead of the reaction of it, I can almost be like, damn, that was a good move. No matter how shitty it was or what I got to clean up or what mess is there. But it always leaves me in a state of power because it's my move now. And I don't need to react that way because what if I ended up driving this guy off the road and killing a baby or killing a little girl? You don't know where one action is going to take you. And we don't think when you're in that moment of rage. So I started doing this early on. And then death came into my life at 35. And I was already gamifying all kinds of emotions that I wanted to win the moment. And when my grandma died and death came in, one of the things I started realizing, I became very aware that there's two voices in my head at all times. There's this voice talking and this voice talking. And it's a 24/7 negotiation, even about dumb stuff. Like little things. It's like this voice talking this, and I just want to make sure that I use that correct voice. Stoicism became one of the greatest gifts for like winning that conversation more than not.
For sure. It's like emotional discipline.
Totally.
Because you're having discipline over your emotions. Because naturally, as humans, we want to react because our feelings are hurt, or I need to show that I'm bigger or better than you, or I got this one up. But then when you actually like reel it back in, you're the one that's in control. I control my actions.
Yep.
Because that's the only thing that you do have control over. I can't control how you respond to me or act towards me, but I can respond and control myself.
Right.
And that gives you a sense of confidence as well, which then spills into other elements of your life.
Agree. If they taught this in school, this may sound like why would they teach in school? This is the stuff that keeps you winning, keeps you moving the right. And this would actually save the world. If this was sort of the type of stuff that was embedded in kids' mind at a young age, being able to understand sort of emotions and emotional control, emotional mastery. It changed my life on accident. And then when I realized, oh, this is a philosophy that goes back 2,000 years. This is some of the greatest, most powerful people in the world play this game every day. Stoicism has become like just such a powerful gift in my life. But so I always try to put that in. If someone's struggling, let them know how much power they have. Start listening to two voices in your head and pick the right voice.
I love that.
Pick the quieter one most of the time.
Totally. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right, actually.
Yeah.
Pick the calm, chill one.
It's a gift.
Because that loud motherfucker, he's the one
he's
that's going to make me pull the Glock.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I find power in the fact that, like, instead of doing something, there's so much power in the fact just knowing that I could really do damage to this person, but guess what? I choose not to today.
Right.
I mean, there's so much power in that alone. There's this one guy that they're talking. It's Mike Tyson and some other guy, and he says, people don't know the violence that it took to become this gentle. I have a story that I have a story as well, and I didn't grow up in the streets, but like a lot of shit happened in my family when I was 18 years old, and I ended up staying, and I had to grow up really fast at 18 years old in a way that most people don't have to grow up, especially coming from a silver spoon to a place where people were taken from me for a minute before I figured out how the game was played. I got addicted to drugs at 13 years old, and life was exactly what it was supposed to be honest with you. And I think I made a reel. I haven't posted it yet because Emily hasn't cut it. I haven't even given it to her, but like my addiction, and then in essence, my recovery has become my superpower. It's become my strength. It's become what's given me the ability to do and accomplish everything that I set my mind to, including like public speaking. Like I started manifesting being a public speaker like if you look right outside of our door right there when you leave, there's a picture of the three of us at the Aspire tour. And that was the first time. Like, we just got invited down there because, you know, Natalie's cool, and they wanted her to be there, so we all came. And I watched it, and I was like,
Yep.
I could do that.
Easy.
Like, these guys, there's nothing special about these people that are on this stage. And most of the people on the stage haven't even accomplished as much as I've accomplished in my life.
Right.
So I was like, I could fucking do that. And last year I told them, like, this is what I want to do. And, you know, we're maybe not on the Aspire stage, because my stage is different. I'm also a man on a mission. I love that. By the way,
Really good.
like, because I am a man on a mission, because when our government allowed the fentanyl to come into this country the way it's come into this country, it took a family member of mine.
Sorry.
You know, it took my son-in-law, and if they think that I'm gonna just, like, when that happened, they fucked with the wrong dude. You know, and maybe God allowed this to happen, and maybe Justin gave up his life to save millions of lives in the end, because they knew that there ain't no stop button in me. You know, like, and we're just barely beginning. You know, and like, I'll get up in front of the world. When he died, the day he died, I was willing to get up in front of the world and embarrass myself, to do whatever I had to do so that everybody hears that this is not okay.
For you.
Because there's a, pardon my French, but there's a fucking solution to this problem. They could stop this problem if they really wanted to.
100%.
You know, not so many people were dying from heroin. I'm sorry. And, you know, I don't like saying this, but put fucking heroin back on the street and get rid of the fentanyl.
Yeah, and fentanyl from a pharmacy, like a legitimate one.
That's
it's
fine.
Not killing people either.
Keep that.
It's this Chinese shit that is killing people.
That's what's killing people.
Yeah.
And
You're right.
Well, it's killing people that aren't even trying to take fentanyl. They're taking just like something completely different.
Well, I was going to tell you,
know?
I have a dear friend, you know, very, very prominent human, one of the biggest developers in the country, and his whole life is just beautiful, right? He's got this incredible son, and his son took a pill that he thought was something innocent and totally different, and somehow it was an accidental swap, and it was laced with fentanyl, and it killed him. And it was an accident. Just wasn't a, you know, just who knows? You can't trust anything anymore.
No, you
That's
can't.
the
And that's the
story
scary
more than, hey, I went and bought fentanyl. That story is
That's
more
painful.
Yeah, painful.
Often.
Painful.
It's upsetting.
And this is what I do for a living,
you,
man.
man.
You know, this
I'll
is
fight with you, brother.
You know, I've owned drug and alcohol treatment centers for the last 22 years of my life. It's all I've ever done. You know, I've helped people, you know, change their life, and yeah, man. And like, I'm like, I could quit. I could quit doing everything that I'm doing. I could. I'm good, but I'm not good.
Yeah.
You know, and especially now, even more so now, like,
You can't
No,
stop.
you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You couldn't.
no, I couldn't
Not
stop.
like if you
It's not
say
impossible.
that, but it's not. You would go crazy and you wouldn't be happy, and
No.
you would not be well.
Yeah, there's no beach with an umbrella in the world that can
no.
do what
I
we're
don't
doing.
even like the beat.
I
I mean, you know
you
what
get the
I'm
point,
saying?
though.
Yeah.
It doesn't touch when you're in love with what you do and that you're impacting and you're fighting.
No, because
it's a good fight.
Like, some
Yes.
people think it's living a life on like a yacht and doing all of that stuff. I'm more like you know, Dana White. He went how many years without fucking taking a vacation, and he just took his very first vacation in however many years. Trump calls him on the phone and says, "Hey, can you open for me?" And he's like,
All right.
He told him no. Well, he told him no. And then his wife was like,
You better do it.
you better
get
do
your
it.
ass over
And then
there.
I'm not sure what was wrong with him, but I don't know if you guys noticed his tongue was really when he was speaking.
No.
No, I
Must have
didn't,
had really dry
I didn't even
mouth.
notice it.
I love Dana White though. Like, he says some good stuff,
Yeah.
man. And like, you know,
But how do you feel now? Because you have transitioned into the man on a mission.
Oh, yeah, that's the best part is if the fear of death has disappeared. And I feel like if I died today, like I'm now pushed the boundaries of what I could have done with the time that I was given, with the information that I had and the resources that I had. And that gives me a lot of comfort. Like I don't feel like having regret now because I am pushing as hard as I can. And when you're really maxing out what you think your potential is, that's amazing. And I do feel that I'm right up against my potential because I go hard. I'm so invested in this. I've reprioritized such a powerful life that was. And now, looking at all the things I do, all the things I'm responsible for, the number one thing that is the spearhead of it all is my purpose. And all the business falls beneath it. But what I realize, it all connects. And that is what brand should be. That's what brand is in my mind. And that's the one thing I avoided all those years with the wrong story. So that now dominates my life. And what I find is, like, when you said at 2 o'clock you're done, I'm the same way, by the way. It's a little later in the day than 2. Like I can be in a flow state from an early morning workout, like 4, 5, 6 a.m. till maybe like 4 or 5 is when I start. Like I just don't take calls past a certain time and I go to bed early. I'm a very regimented human. But when I lay my head down now, no matter how hard the day was or whatever the battles or wars are, it's a different type of feeling than when it used to be.
Sure.
And it's because I'm living in my purpose. It's so powerful. And I wish I could give this to everyone, this gift. But what's cool is we can. You said that's your mission now. You're right. It took me a while to figure out what is my mission. And I even created a mission statement. We teach mission. It was part of Man on a Mission. We curated that for a lot of people, the idea, the concept with your business and your brand. My original mission, and it's probably the same, is together we slay dragons and max out our God-given potential. So a simple line, and then I had a vision statement that went beneath it, and that's where I bring in children to protect innocence. So when you're living in your highest and best use, and you become a strong person that knows who you are, now you go fight a cause. And ours was always going to be the evil that is indoctrinating and taking over this world, and the sort of the mental health, especially of innocence, but. That mission statement above, I think what I'm saying in there, together, I'm going to lock arms with you and I'll help you do this. We'll do this together. I want to help you face your biggest dragons and max out your God-given potential. I realize I'm telling people, like, I'm here to help you find purpose. Whatever it is you do. And again, that story may have to start with winning first before I can connect that dot. Maybe someone does have to get somehow secured. Depends on the person I'm working with.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter though. Whatever you're going through, I'll get you there. And I love that I have that kind of power and authority. You get around me long enough, I'll get you there because anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah. But I think you need the right voice, the right people around you. You need to be listening to the right information. The right energy needs to be flowing through your soul. And that is what I want to provide to the world. But Ed Milet, he told me something really powerful, and maybe he tells everybody this, but he told me, he goes, Erik, I think you're the one that is going to come up beneath me and fill my shoes that I'm going to hand the baton off to. And he's one of the greatest speakers, in the world. He was ranked by USA Today as the number one speaker in America, in the world, number one mindset and performance coach in the world. And, I've seen him speak 100 times, and he has an authority on that stage. So if I can have the level of skill and the level of connection that man has had and all the lives that he's changed, the message that I'm going to bring to the world, I'm going to go toe to toe with you and your message as well. We can lock arms and do it together, is to fight back against the evil that is absolutely destroying this world. And it's when good men do nothing that I think evil triumphs. So there's a really powerful why beneath like my aggressive nature and wanting you to win and you to win and you to win and you to win. Like I feel like the more people that are being heroes, actual heroes to their children, and they're not living lies, not living rackets. You tell me to be a hero, daddy, but I watch you lie. I watch you lie to mommy. I watch you cheat. I watch you do this. Kids watch all this shit. Like if we can get people to level up, I think that this becomes sort of a force for courage, and courage can then start calling out the things that most people stayed silent to for far too long.
I agree.
Amen. I like your slaying dragons thing. It reminds me of saying with every new level there's a new devil, right?
100%.
And people don't realize to level up in life, you have to slay that dragon at the end.
Yes.
That is the only way you can level up to the next level. And every level you got, and these are demons within yourself, right? Yeah. That you have to conquer.
A lot of them are lies. Like
lies
a lie that you told yourself, where if people knew my past, meaning business people, whether they're billionaires or property management or whoever you're dealing with, that they won't work with me. I'm not going to either get this or that. Those are lies that we tell ourselves and that are not true, because half the people, and I'm sure because obviously now you're, vocal with your story, they don't care because they got shit in their closets as well.
Yeah.
Every single individual does. It's just on different levels.
Yeah.
So no one is able to cast a judge on others.
Yeah.
Unless your house is clean.
I think people love you more when they
sure.
when they see you vulnerably tell the truth, and you give them the courage to do the same.
100%. And it also gets to show the dog in the individuals that have gone through the fire,
Yeah.
to have leveled up, to keep going when things aren't looking the best or when times are really, really low.
Right.
You got to have an inner dog in you to keep going. If you don't, you're going to stay right there.
It's easy to win once.
Yeah, it's true.
It is because
How many people have won,
I love it.
multiple championships?
Yeah.
You can equate that to like sports. It's easy to win one championship, but how many people repeat?
Totally.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady,
Jordan.
Yeah, that's a winner.
Michael
Kobe
Jordan,
Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. Those are the people with the inner dog that you need to aspire to be like.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm going to say this guy has multiple championships too, even though I can't stand him.
LeBron.
Yes. He has something.
Yeah, man, he could be using his voice to help so many more people than
He has something inside of him.
But he's a liberal.
Well, I just brought this up on I think I was on a stage. This topic I brought up about Obama is, he became the president of the United States, the leader of the free world. He could have come out to the world and he says, "Hey, I'm black and I'm the president of the United States. If I can do it, you can do it." But he did the exact opposite. He said, "You are a victim and you can't do it. And this whole system is racist and cops are racist." And that was all around all the riots that started happening around that tragic situation where a guy's on drugs and gets killed by a cop that maybe was too rough, maybe he wasn't, but that cop's life is absolutely ruined. And these police that go out and defend innocents and they run towards bullets when they fly instead of people that run away from. Like, that was so appalling to me how that was handled by the president of the United States, but he could have done it so opposite. He could have inspired so many black kids in the black communities that are suffering under Democratic control for the last 50 years. He could have lifted them up and inspired them and says, "Get out of the gangs. I did it. You can do it." Nope. Did the opposite. Said you're a slave.
That's because that's not their agenda is not to get them out of the
dependency.
Yeah,
It's their voter base.
That is why, though. I mean, they're all doing it right now. The Great Divide has already happened. We are the Great Divided Nation. We are weak as fuck right now.
It's maddening.
Yeah, it's maddening.
One thing I think is a cool topic too. So like The Rock, right? Historically, guy just 400 million followers, right? And he was a beloved character, kind of like a teddy bear that everyone just loves, left or right. A lot of what he speaks to historically, 99% of his be the hardest worker in the room. Something I love. Let's go. Let's be that savage. His actions are purely conservative principles. He's the type person is like, who's giving, who's taking, who's lying, who's telling the truth, like who's winning, who's losing. Like, we look for merit. It's the content of your character, right? That is what his actions preach. But what oftentimes comes out of these people's mouths that live their lives through conservative principles, through fiscally, financially responsible principles, they live their life conservatively, but yet they preach liberalism. And it just is maddening to me. It's like, no, if your actions were liberal, you wouldn't be there.
That's because they sold out. They sold out. He sold out. He was
exactly right.
I can guarantee 100%. You that.
That's all it is.
And now he's trying to backpedal because immediately when in 2020 when he came out, and for the first time ever, he's like, I am coming out to. I was like,
so frustrating.
We're done. I said, we're done.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I never could look at him the same, and then I meet her, and then I find out other stuff, and I don't like him anymore. But
the main point is like these people run rackets too, Is like, but again, like if I think part of our message is at the end of the day is like you have to really identify what is destroying freedom, what is hurting children the most. Like, where is the ideology coming in that is actually destructive? If you don't have the courage to speak to it because you're so afraid of getting canceled, or you're so afraid of you're going to be labeled a bigot or a racist, because that's their weapon they've always used. I think it's played out. Call it to me. I give two shits. But at the end of the day, like if you're too scared to call a spade, and causation is, I think, more important than anything right now. And this is where I think we're going to be on the right side of history. And I just, I have the courage to go after it and to say what I got to say. And even as I pursue big stages, man, I make sure I get my punches in there, because there's a lot of people that are listening, that are impressionable, that are middle of the road, that don't watch anything, they don't know what's happening. And again, stoically, I don't want to be emotionally ruining my life. I just want to be aware, see the truth, speak to it, and then go live blissfully through impact.
And that's the thing, is truth. Is that that's where we're in a weird
There
time
is
right now, because they're making something that is untrue all of a sudden truth. And that's where it's a really scary time.
There's always a way to say things in a way that just the real key is to get people to start questioning. Just to open your eyes a little bit.
Think for
Because
yourself.
you cannot
I get what you're
rely
saying.
on, and I'm going to, you cannot rely on CNN, and you cannot rely on Fox News solely to get your information. Go out in the world and actually look.
Or
Totally.
read
I
some
mean,
history.
please just look
Yeah, history.
at
Exactly.
there is no possible way. Look at everything. Just take a look. Where was our economy when Obama was in office? What were gas prices? What were food costs? He had 8 years. Trump had 4 years. Biden has had almost 4 years. Our gas prices were the best during the Trump era. They just were. These are facts, right? Grocery bill.
Well, we were energy independent for the first time in history.
We were energy independent.
Yep.
All of these things. I mean, that's not a damn political.
No, I just want
podcast,
people
but
to just like
just
read
open your
historic
eyes and
events from past and other countries as well, so that they have the understanding of what true dictatorship looks like,
Absolutely.
what tyranny looks like all of those things, because it's in our history. It's just that nobody wants to open a book anymore.
You're so
They
right.
want to just listen to the narrative that they're listening from their specific, I guess, ideological or party line, when you have to not rely on so-called people on television.
Yeah.
Do some research that has actually happened.
read Tulsi's book.
I like to simplify it too in this manner. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with Biden. It's about the ideology they represent.
Yeah.
Like, forget who it is.
Yeah.
What is the ideology they're protecting or pushing? And if you just look at through that lens, like the two ideologies are stark different. Which one is more logical if you were going to embed that sort of principle in your own life that is going to get you better results? Trust me when I tell you, there is an answer, and it is fact that there's one ideology that will advance your position in life if you apply that principle of the ideology into your own life, and one will make you a victim. It's just the way it works. And the main thing I would sort of like connect between that dot is when you look around at actual figures. You know, there's something I think recently that happened that is like just a gaping sort of reality, like punch for a lot of people, and that was when Robert Kennedy Jr. When he had the courage to say, I could not look at, and even though his family is the most historical Democratic family ever, Kennedy last name, they own the Democratic Party, although by today's standards, his uncle would have been a hardcore conservative. And I got the chance to tell him that in person one time, and he laughed and he said, I agree with you. And but the point is he had the courage to step away. And what he said was interesting. He says, I could not look myself in the mirror, knowing, he actually said this, and this is a paraphrase quote, knowing that I did not do what was true and right, and if I support that, then I would have been basically living a lie and like putting kids in a dangerous situation, and I could not let myself live like that. So he put like literally the sort of the loyalty to an ideology that is destructive. Most people won't do what he did. Like they would have stayed the party line just cause it's in his wife's not happy. There's all the Kennedys. There's a huge family aren't happy.
Yeah.
That to me just said so much, because that guy has a better look under the hood than anyone.
You know what? I'm going to piggyback on that. You know why I think helps him be able to do something like that is, you know, he's a recovering addict, right?
Yeah.
And he works a program, and he goes to he goes to 7 meetings a week.
Yeah.
And even when he's on the road. And to me, that is like a testament of, I work a 12-step program as well. So it's like you have to going through the steps are really great for any individual,
Sure.
regardless if you're an
I read the
addict or
book.
not. Yeah, it's very
it.
much having to take inventory, being honest,
Yeah, right.
admitting when you are not, making amends. You try to, obviously we don't practice, or I don't practice the principles perfectly, but you try.
But
Yeah,
you try to
I love
practice
it.
And so
those
it's
principles
like,
in all your
yeah.
affairs.
And that to me is a person or an individual that I think is trying.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you know, takes a lot of balls to
Totally.
be on like the massive stage and do that.
Why do we always use balls as something being tough? Because I just want to tell you guys, balls are the weakest thing ever.
I think
if you flick my ball, I'm gonna fall on the ground in a fetal position in pain.
Because
balls are not tough.
No, but I think of a bull. You tie the balls together and like you're
that was my
buck
first
wild.
thought. That was my first
They're
thought.
strong as fuck.
Yeah, bull balls.
Yeah.
Brahma bull balls.
Like for real. That's where I'm thinking. I'm not.
Should we tie Shane's balls together? Because he's been acting not tough today.
I don't know, but on the balls note, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Erik,
we talk
you're amazing.
Yeah.
And congratulations just with everything.
Yeah, with
Like
everything,
your journey to you finding Man on a Mission and to keep going in search of, like, even though you had all of the things that we do aspire to get, but then you continued to kind of go on the quest of wanting more, which then led you to Man on a Mission.
Yeah, thank you. Same thing with Hopeaholics. This is genius, beautiful. I love it. Yeah, I love what you guys are about.
This is our brand, man.
It's incredible. Yeah, you guys
We're
are
branding 3 people at one time.
This is the way, like, this is the way to, like, not only just sort of meaning, but this is the way I think to, like, saving the world. It's like these are the people right here that keep the world going around, and they're everywhere. You know, it's just these big institutions that have such a grip that sort of overpower the people that are actually keeping this thing turning, because without people that have the courage to do what's right, call things out, this world's going to destroy itself. There's like good players have got to be able to shine somehow in a world that is trying to force darkness in. And I think people are mistaken. I'll end with this. My last thought is where freedom exists, that there's not some dark force trying to destroy it constantly. Of course there is. It's just a way it works.
For sure.
So
that dark force is trying to destroy it inside of my own head.
Yeah, I hope this podcast lit people up to, like, whoever's listening to go out and do something. Like, main thing is this: you hear it, you're inspired. I hear this all the time. Oh, I needed that. People always say that I needed to hear this today. Then just please promise me you go run with it, you do something with it, and you become sort of obsessive towards the thing that is going to sort of get you out of the situation you're in, and like that momentum, it'll start taking off in your life. But you're going to have to get rid of a lot of people who are going to try to take you down. They're going to doubt you. They're going to try to put all these slippery little thoughts in your brain to get you to doubt yourself. And so if you are going to turn this into an action, get rid of the people that are the blood suckers that drain your life, because I think that is where you'll start seeing real momentum.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
And on that.
Trim the fat.
Trim the fat.
Trim the fat. Thank you, guys.